The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on December 28, 2021.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and today we're going to talk about the Access Deer Task Force and what's happening with deer on Maui. We're going to speak with a representative of the SBA regarding the upcoming annual Small Business Administration's Awards, and we're going to speak to a vendor who participated in the 8th annual Made in Maui County Festival about his unique art and products. But first, it's my pleasure to recognize and welcome Councilmember Yukilei Sugimura. Yuki, as everybody knows.
Morning.
Good morning, Yuki. You have the council seat for the Upcountry residency area, and you are working on a really important piece that's important to of our Upcountry farmers, and we're going to talk about the task force this morning. But you've held the council seat for the Upcountry residency area for how many years now?
I'm into my fifth year.
Fifth year.
So I'm in the third term.
And
yes.
You are also the chair of the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee. So you have been really busy. We also know you were on a show recently and shared all the help that you've been doing after the storm, and helping people, get through the challenges they face with major debris and flooding and damage to their homes and to businesses. Really appreciate the tremendous work you're doing. And now one of your focuses is also really addressing a long-term systemic problem now, which is access deer. Can you tell us about this task force that you've created and are spearheading to make a measurable difference?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Pam, for covering this important what's going on in our community. So, as you know, since you're live up country, that we have this growing access deer problem, and truly, because I call ourselves the breadbasket with our ranchers and farmers, large landowners like Ulupalakua Ranch, Haleakala Ranch, Kaonu'olu Ranch, and as well as smaller ranches are all up country that and farmers like the Kula Egg Park. But we're the breadbasket, I call it, and so therefore we see this infiltration and overpopulation of deer, access deer, that is in our community, and it has grown.
Right.
How serious is the problem? So, if I take data right now, Jake Muse is doing what he's calling a survey, aerial shots, helicopter shot and and he's doing his data analytics and tallying. But a September 20 article this year in the Maui News, Jake Muse was quoted as saying that there is an estimated 50 to 60,000 access deer on Maui, and the majority are upcountry. And the really shocking thing, and makes it probably more important that we created this task force, he says that without doing any active management, the deer population will grow to 210,000 in the next 10 to 15 years. And this was Jake Muse's quote, co-founder of an organization, Maui Nui Venison, which he tries to help balance the number of deer on Maui as he works right now with large landowners. So we have a growing problem.
Right.
And I'm glad that this group has come together.
And this is a problem where it's as you say, growing exponentially. So it's one of the things that's happened is there's been some measures, but like a number of other environmental issues, funding's always sometimes a challenge to get. We're competing against many different other areas where funding is needed, and sometimes when our response isn't as significant as it needs to be. I mean, we've heard in council chambers the coqui frogs and people really frustrated with that. The challenge is the problem grows, and then the amount of money needed to then address the problem keeps growing exponentially, as exponentially as the problem keeps growing. And, these are breeding deer. And in our community, I live in Pukalani. When you turn off to Pukalani, there's a deer. There's a deer warning that it can be an area where deer cross. And in the past, we never really saw it, but now we're seeing more and more deer, and we're not familiar in the state of Hawaii, like other states, like Wisconsin and Minnesota and other places, Oregon, where they have deer frequently, and they know what happens if you hit a deer. They know the kinds of damage that can do, not only to somebody's car, but how people can be injured just from hitting a deer. And they're kind of they're very reckless animals. So in addition to protecting our breadbasket, and I really want to focus on that as well, because that's the crux of what this task force is geared to, we also have to recognize that without addressing this situation, which is becoming more and more urgent, if you think about, if we have 50 to 60,000 now, and you think about in the next decade, we could be looking at 210,000 deer. That's going to have broad-ranging impact, not just on our breadbasket area with farmers and ranchers. Those deer are going to be in neighborhoods. They're going to be on our highways. We're going to have, by our businesses, we're going to have significant issues.
Yes. The other thing that that was brought up at one of the meetings is that not only with the overpopulation, not only are they eating up our farms and devastating, the foliage and causing brown water, to our coral reefs. I mean, those are all the environmental impacts.
Right.
But it's also very cruel to the animals when there is not enough water, which is, our drought situation that we have up country. And we had our drought situation last a little longer this year than previous years. And Pam, you know how it is, right?
Right,
when you live
absolutely.
up country, you know that during the summers,
we're on water ration,
Yes, but it's also cruel to the animals. So behind my home in Kula, there's, I think it's 40 acres of, it's larger. But anyway, this is just grazing, land back there. And I see deer once in a while. And it's actually, if you look at it, they're not as healthy as, some in the past. So I've seen it myself where on the flip side, it's almost inhumane to them as they're, don't have enough to survive, just on their own. But that's another perspective. But Jake, this article in September that was released just perfectly says, if we don't do something, then the problem will grow to 210,000 and in 10 to 15 years. So we need to do something about this overpopulation. And the people who are part of the task force, there's 5 different committees that we set up. One is manage and control, which a lot of them are hunters who want to participate. And I just want to say that in that committee, it doesn't mean that you get to hunt, but we're trying to find solutions. So it's not like, I think that initially people were anxious just to sign up just so that they could hunt. But that's not the objective of that. That is to look for ideas. That's number one subcommittee. The other subcommittee is to find funding. The mission of this task force, Access Deer Task Force, is to manage control, to get down to overpopulation, and then to find resources. And what happened in past task force, from what I read and what I heard by talking to some members, is that they had great ideas, but they didn't have enough resources or funding to carry out, their suggestions. So that became a subcommittee of this group. And the other one is economic development, Pam, of which thank you very much for being part of that, because there is a real interest in creating industries from this, and that opportunity is available, but somebody needs to put the idea down, paper, pencil, and do the research, because it would involve, if it involves eating, venison or whatever it is, there's a whole FDA, requirements that we must follow, of course, for food safety. So, that's one of the committees. The other one is environment and the ecology, and that has been amazing. The input that we've gotten from that, which I'll talk about later. And the last one is communication and legislation. So this will involve any kind of legislative change. Senator DeCoite's staff Rebecca has been very helpful with finding us answers, state laws, and then of course we have our corp council that helps us because we're county council, so we're part of the county. But so those are the subcommittees that we have formulated, and it's exciting. This task force was launched in September, and then October was an off month, which we used for subcommittees to meet, and then November was our last meeting that we had, our second meeting of the task force, just to kind of regroup and report back and see how we can, march forward. And then in January we'll meet again. So to me, the exciting things, the ideas that have come out of the task force is that one of the basics that came from the large landowners, the ranches, is to look at where all the fencing is, because the fencing will keep out the deer and help manage it. And so that is being worked on. And I'm really grateful because this idea came from, the large landowners, and they've been actively, doing fencing, Mahipono, Ulupalakua Ranch, Haleakala Ranch, as well as Ka'onu Ranch. And, you can never do enough, right? And so what happens when you put up a fence is the deer then go elsewhere. But what was reported by Haleakala Ranch at my last infrastructure transportation committee meeting, as we were talking about R1 reuse, is that what they do is they try to bring deer into their property, to help the smaller ranches, that they would be willing to cooperate and collaborate that way, just to help each other. So I see some kind of nice communication going on, which is helpful because everyone shares this big problem. On the subcommittee with ecology and environment, Michael Reyes, who is with the soil water conservation, he's one of the conservationists with soil water conservation. That's how I should be saying it. He basically worked with the ranches and came up with an idea of doing R1 reuse in our South Maui, with our South Maui wastewater reclamation facility, which is exciting because, as you know, we have excess water that we need to use, and then we have devastation of the foliage on the hillside or mountainside that's caused by the deer, eating away the hillside. So we have some nice collaboration and ideas that are being formulated through that subcommittee. And I'm excited to see if the County of Maui can, what we can do to do that, because in a private-public partnership, the large landowners are saying, that they would be willing to offer their land to, portions to help, mitigate this concern by working together. And we saw slides of what happens when you have the, just water reuse in that area and the foliage that are coming up. And it's pretty exciting just to, have that that conversation. And then another suggestion that came up through this was to actually use the renderings or the leftovers. People always talk about we want to eat deer or we want to, do dog food or do different things with deer. But the renderings, which are the leftover parts, the question is what happens to that? Or if you have deer that's, on the highway and it goes to the landfill, what can be done with that? And this idea that came up actually through Kupa'a Farms and Jerry Ross. I saw him as he has compost. He's making compost. And so an idea that came up also is to possibly do composting and do a pilot project. So that's something that we're exploring. It's a little bit early to announce, but it is a big need that we have in our community.
Well, and that's one of the things, Yuki, I'm so excited about, is you really brought a broad circle of people together who are resource people as well as people impacted, from large landowners and ranchers to farmers and, as you say, environmental experts and soil and conservation experts and business people. And they're coming together to say, okay, we have this huge problem. And if we don't deal with the problem, it's gonna affect our breadbasket in upcountry Maui in a very significant and negative way. I mean, there's high cost, even to fencing. There's high costs, and and as we fence more, and unfortunately, that's one of the more immediate solutions. Even though it comes at a high cost, it helps preserve your crops and your business, which people need to do. But also, as we fence more, then that displaces the deer more. And then, again, the issue is that they're needing water. And if there was other places they could get water, maybe they'd do less damage because they're very clumsy animals. They can trip over irrigation. They can destroy. It's not just fencing. They can destroy your fencing if it's not high enough. They jump over it and damage the fencing. If they get in to your property and you've got irrigation for farming, as an example, they'll tear up the drip lines. They'll trip over and knock off sprinkler heads or break above ground irrigation lines. So there's a lot of things that can happen. And then, of course, just damaging the crops is really huge. But as we do more fencing, then, as you mentioned, that starts to displace the deer, and then we see them in other areas. But the group is looking at everything so holistically. And you've set it up that way with all the different committees so that we're touching on how do we protect our environment, how do we protect, the economic activity we need to preserve, how do we look at the deer as a resource. What with these deer, we know we have to cull the herds. I mean, the bottom line is, I remember there was a time where people talked about, maybe giving deer birth control and trying to inoculate them with birth control. And we were talking about some of the things and how problematic that would be. And as the population grew, there, in addition to the brown water issue, there was what was happening at the watersheds and the devastation in some of our watershed areas. So, it's affecting so much of our island in ways that many, if you don't live up country or you haven't seen them, and many people I know still haven't seen a deer on Maui. I hadn't for decades, but now we do. And now we can see herds up country on different pieces of land. So it's something we really have to address, but I love that we're looking at it holistically. You've brought together an awesome group coming up with a variety of ideas. And and there's ways for the public. If maybe if you're not serving on the task force, how can others in the public get involved to share some of their thoughts on this?
Yeah. So one of the suggestions that I got is when I have this task force meetings, I basically it's just because of COVID, right? Everything is online, and I've got a suggestion for that exact interest if people want to hear what's happening with the discussion of the task force, and to have the task, with Zoom, you can always have people in the meeting, and then you can have others listening. So I'm going to be opening it up so that we can have community who want to listen in and send questions they can, as the meeting is going on. And so that is one thing. And I get email. I say I've been living this. Access Deer comments and concerns ever since it was launched in September. I get emails from people, or people call me and have suggestions or thoughts. And there's a lot of hunters who want to hunt, and there's a frustration, I guess, because they think that they should be allowed to hunt on private lands. And I just want to stress that is an arrangement between the private landowner and the hunter. It's not something that the task force would entertain, because we don't have that authority a way of receiving that liability or being exposed to liability should something go wrong. So that is a communication between the hunter and the private landowners, and as you know, with the ranches and everybody else. Even at the Kula Egg Park, we have Kula Hunting Club, which is a group of Jeff Fry has a group of hunters that he goes in every week and he hunts and takes down deer because they have been devastating, the farms there. And I have to tell you that I went to look at it recently. Like now it's been 3 weeks ago, but it's on one side is a gulch, and they call it the deer highway because I could actually see, this is like in the afternoon, deer.
You can see them down there.
Yeah, and they're so visible and bold, right? In the middle of the day, they're still around. But they showed me what the deer has done to their crops. And the ginger that you eat when you for spice when you cook, the ginger root?
Yes.
So one of the farmers had planted fields and fields of it. And he showed me that it was this beautiful field that I was looking at, but what I was looking at was now the weeds
that
have taken over.
Not the ginger. Right, exactly.
Not the ginger, because the ginger plant down to the soil was eaten away by the deer. And he said he refuses to plant again because there was no way of protecting his crops. And, he had gone down, and Pam, you wouldn't be concerned about this because it affects the number of workers he had because he had to lay off. And he and his brother were kind of toiling the soil and trying to, keep the farm going as they're trying to deal with this devastation.
It's a huge issue. I mean, the cost of fencing for the farmers is a huge issue. And and then, and it's tough because even between landowners, some people may be fencing and some people aren't. And, and which means that, if you've got a neighboring property, it could be a shared cost if everybody sort of covered at least one part of their property line. But for those, when you're in an area where others are not maybe fencing or protecting because they don't have the same issue or needs, you're having to fence all sides. And so that raises the cost as well. So it's a huge issue.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up really quick because we do have another segment coming on. But if you can, we will bring you back to update people from time to time.
Okay.
And have you on again.
Very much. I just want to close by saying that, this problem, I heard from Pulama Lanai, and January 10th, 5:30 to 6:30, they're going to have a Pulama Lanai community meeting on access deer. And during the storm, they picked up what they called 93 expired deer right in Lanai town. So they're seeing it in their community as well as we are. And I just want to encourage people to, I'm going to come up with a newsletter that has contact information and report deer accidents if you do have any. And from last year to this year, there's been a 200% increase of the number of deer accidents, which is just devastating. 173 as of December 17th. Data from Maui Police Department compared to, there was, I think the number was 90-something in the previous year. I mean, it's huge differences. So
it's a huge issue.
We are in this together. We will solve this. Or get a handle of it, I guess I should say.
Well, Yuki, thank you for your leadership. We truly appreciate it. And I just want to say we wish you a wonderful holiday season and New Year.
Same to you.
And we'll have you again, and we'll do updates because this is such an important topic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to thank you very much, Pam, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds great. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. Aloha. If you're just tuning in, this is a show sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal. And we're back with Business Matters, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Valerie Kubota. She is the Outreach and Marketing Specialist at the U.S. Small Business Administration. Valerie and her other dynamic duo, Hazel Beck, were on recently. We were talking about their visits to Maui, and Hazel also came, unfortunately, tried to come to the rescheduled Made in Maui County Festival on December 4th, but as you know, we had to reschedule that to the 11th with the storm, but these dynamic ladies are out and working hard for small businesses, and Hazel ended up going to the swap meet, had a great time, but this morning Valerie's on the show with us, and she's here to talk about the Small Business Awards this year. Aloha and welcome, Valerie.
Aloha. Good morning, Pam. Thanks for having us again. Thank you so much.
Oh, good morning. It's my pleasure. So we are excited because the annual Small Business Awards are a big deal, and it's actually, there's a regional award program and there's also a national award program. Can you start and tell us a little bit about what the awards are and the kinds of recognition that you do?
Absolutely, Pam. So this year, they made some changes in the submission process. So through that, it took a little while for us to get the website and nomination forms up. But everything is up right now. And if anybody wants to make a submission, they just go to the www.sba.gov/National Small Business Week Awards. So everything is on a national platform this year. And what you would do is to look at, like Pam said, there is a national award and a local or a district award. So currently, the two national awards would be for National Small Business Owner of the Year and Exporter of the Year. So both of those winners on the local level would be submitted to the national level and have a chance to be a national winner in those two categories. And I understand a few years ago, Maui produced a national winner, right?
We did, yes. It was Garrett Marrero, Maui Brewing Company.
Yes, that was very exciting. So hopefully this year we can do it again. We've known that, the past few years, kind of put a damper on so many things. And so everyone's excited to get the awards back again. And again, we have the national awards and the district awards. So as far as the local or district awards, that would be for Entrepreneur of the Year, Young Entrepreneur of the Year, Young Entrepreneur of the Year, a Veteran Business or Veteran Advocate of the Year, a Woman Business or a Woman Advocate of the Year, and the Small Family Business of the Year. So all of this would be on our website. Some of the criteria for all of these, in particular, the Young Entrepreneur of the Year would be someone who will not have reached the age of 35 by May 6, 2022.
Oh, good.
And that May 6th date is the date we have penciled in for the actual in-person awards here in Honolulu at the YWCA. So we're going to cross our fingers that, we can get that as an in-person event this year. And we're also working together with Pam to see what we can do for Maui County.
Which we are so excited to bring these local awards back so that those who are winners in Maui County can be also, in addition to being recognized at the state level and throughout Hawaii at the award ceremony in Oahu, that they can be recognized locally here on island. And so we're very excited about that. And it would be for Maui County, even though it would be held on Maui. So we've done that for many years. We had a brief break with COVID, but we're excited about bringing it back. And we really want to encourage people to nominate in these different categories.
Yes, absolutely. So, nominations come in from, the local banks. They come in from, other vendors or customers that these businesses work with. They come, from friends and family who have seen, entrepreneurs work so hard, especially during COVID. And, the people who can nominate can just be anyone, and again, like Pam said, we want to, recognize all of the hard work that small business has been doing, especially during the pandemic. So we're extremely excited. We have a lot of inquiries from some of the local banks that are on Maui, so I know we're going to get some great nominations.
We want to see them come in. This is such an important time to acknowledge our small business community, and these awards are very important because they lift up our companies on a statewide and national level, and really showcase the tremendous heart that we have in Hawaii for doing small business. We have exciting entrepreneurs, and this is great recognition that they receive, and it really helps these companies grow as well. I do want to mention, you mentioned anyone, but they can't self-nominate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Could an employee nominate their employer?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yes, they can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is super awesome. So really, you can't self-nominate, but the window is wide open for everybody else to nominate an amazing small business, and we all know them. And then, Valerie, I know you and I were talking about this because, again, there's sort of the local awards, and then there's the national awards. So if you had a dynamic veteran business or a woman-owned business, veteran-owned or woman-owned business, and you wanted to nominate them for those awards, but you also felt they would be an excellent candidate for maybe a small business of the year or exporter of the year, you can nominate them in both categories. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Pam. Yes, because, the small business of the year award, right, could be a woman or a veteran as well. So they could fit in both categories.
Awesome. And one of the things that you also mentioned, which sometimes they've done it differently, but it's nice that they've kind of combined it, but you could also nominate advocates for veteran-owned businesses or women-owned businesses. Can you tell us more about sort of that realm of who should they think of as a possible candidate as an advocate nominee?
Yes, I mean, definitely. So we did have that category in the past. So what happens is, we know that there's so many great people out in the community who advocate for veterans and women businesses. And in the past, we've had people who, may be a part of an association that does outreach for veterans, or, a women's group that support women businesses. So those are the type of, people who would fit under that category, Pam. Somebody who's out there, just helping them pave the way, helping them get access to resources. And we know, like you said, Pam, we know of so many people out in the community, especially with veterans, veterans issues, and people who go out and, just do outreach. So, there's the business owner itself. It could be a veteran-owned business, and then it could be someone advocating on behalf of that business.
That's awesome. Because, again, we do want to recognize those who are helping lift these businesses up. And I know that these are priorities for the SBA. So can you talk a little bit about why they specifically called out veteran-owned and women-owned businesses?
Yes, absolutely, Pam. Like you said, the Small Business Administration we have programs that support women and women-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses. Like you said, we know that these two segments of the business world have been left out in the past, and the Small Business Administration wants to make sure that we are reaching this segment of business owners because they contribute, so much to the community. In particular, our Veterans Business Outreach Center of the Pacific, they do monthly Boots to Business seminars on all of the local bases here, Schofield, Kaneohe, Wheeler. But what they do is they have soldiers who will be retiring soon, transitioning out of the military, who might be interested in opening their own business.
Nice.
So it is, a very intense 2-day workshop that we go out there and give them the tools they need, to start planning, for a possible second career. So, it's exciting that, every session they do, they're like 20 to 30 people. And, they just started back in person. They were doing it online for, the past year and a half due to COVID. But again, it's so encouraging to know that, all of the experience that they received in the, in their respective branch, can make them, a successful entrepreneur. So, again, like you said, Pam, the veterans and women are, very close at heart with the SBA.
I love that, and it's so great to hear. And I'm glad you mentioned the Boots to Business program. And sometimes we hear something and we don't really realize like the broader impact about our military who has served our country. Now their time is ending in the military, but how amazing that they're getting so much entrepreneurial training. They would make phenomenal business owners. They know how to pivot. They know how to deploy tactics. They know how to manage people and work in teams. And I know your folks are looking at, in the coming year as you're planning your calendar, you're looking at also taking the Boots to Business programs to the neighbor islands as well.
Yes, absolutely. So Dennis Kwok, who is the director of the VBOC, as the acronym, Veterans Business Outreach Center of the Pacific. We work together with his team, and hopefully, they come under the University of Hilo system. And, unfortunately, during COVID, they had some restrictions as to travel because they really wanted to join us on Maui, Pam, and unfortunately, they couldn't do it. So I know they want to start planning something in this early quarter of January or February. So we'll definitely keep you posted on that. And just one more thing, on our Veterans Boots to Business series, we don't want to forget the spouses of the military. When they get deployed, they move from, state to state. A lot of times they don't have a chance, to really build a career. But what we've seen is, because spouses of veterans are also eligible for the benefits under the Boots to Business. So we see so many successful spouses start their own business as well, because they bring a wealth of experience and knowledge from, all of the states that they live in and other countries that they live in.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times they can bring new products, bring new services, to something, a different place that has not experienced it yet. So again, we don't want to leave out, the spouses because we know that they make a huge sacrifice as well.
They do, and often they are home, managing the household, raising the children by themselves as their other half is deployed. Often they do that while working another job, so they too have phenomenal skills. So Valerie, this is so exciting. So we want to remind everybody again how they can learn more about the program and find that online application so that they can start nominating away.
Yes, and just one more thing, Pam, before I forget. The deadline is right around the corner.
Yes.
So the deadline is going to be on January the 11th at 3 p.m., and that's Eastern time. I know they've made some concessions in the past, but this year they want to keep it again on a very level playing ground. So the website to accept or the Dropbox to accept the nominations will actually be shut down. So there's no way or exceptions made for late applications. So, we got to have everybody go out there and, start nominating away.
Okay, so does that mean then it would be 9 a.m. for us? Or what's the, is it 5 or 6 hours at that time of year?
It's 5 hours now.
Okay, so it would be 10 a.m. for us, is that correct?
Yes.
So January 11th, 10 a.m. This is really important because, with all things COVID, everybody's scrambling to keep their programs up and do things, but we're having to pivot, which means sometimes our things are a little delayed in getting out. So we've got a short window, folks, to nominate outstanding businesses. So January 11th at 10 a.m. Hawaii time, since it's 3 p.m. Eastern, is when we've got to get stuff in. But it's online, so that'll be easier. So tell us again, Valerie, where they can go.
So they can go to the www.sba.gov and you do the / National Small Business Week.
Perfect. Valerie, I cherish you. We're so excited to be working with you to let people know about this exciting program and to encourage everybody to nominate an outstanding small business. And we want to just thank you and Hazel. I know she couldn't be with us today because you guys are dividing and conquering as you do very well. But we wish you both a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year.
Thank you, Pam. And we cherish and appreciate you too, being the voice there on Maui and helping us deploy information and resources. And, just having this great working relationship, to be able to call on each other when we need help and need to get information out. Your office, your whole staff has been so responsive and, so efficient. They're so efficient. So, please thank them as well for keeping us, all the instructions, like even for today, very explicit and, so easy to follow. So thank you so much, and please wish them and your families Merry Christmas as well.
We will, and please do the same for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. Take care.
You too. All right. Well, we are so excited that the SBA has this program, and we also are doing a local program. Ours will be held, we're still scheduling or rescheduling into the first quarter of 2022, and it is the Mayor's Small Business Awards that the Chamber has hosted annually for quite some time. And of course, from administration to administration, we've had different mayors, leading the way with the Mayor's Small Business Award as we award outstanding small businesses. So we'll be working on that as well, and talking to people about getting more applications in. We had a number of applications, but with the holiday season, it got a little tight. So we're hoping, again, in the beginning of the year, we can get more applications in for that local awards program. And we also just want to mention that the Maui Chamber of Commerce is looking for help. We are looking for either a part-time or full-time position. So if you are interested, if you are familiar with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, we do a lot of things with those three programs. PowerPoint we can train on. But if you have front office experience in working with people, please let us know. Send a resume to office, OFFICEMGR, which is an abbreviation for manager. So OFFICEMGR at Maui Chamber, no S, Maui Chamber, singular.com. We'd love to hear from you and be able to talk to you more about the exciting opportunities in working for the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And now I'd like to turn to Jonathan Baldwin. Jonathan is the owner of Jonerz Art. He is the artist behind that amazing art company. And Jonerz is a nickname given to him when he was a child, and the name stuck. Jonathan is a pop surrealist artist with flavors of the new school and surf art mixed in. He started out at festivals and live events, and his interest in art built, and he has phenomenal, as he calls it a great mixture, but it is fun pop art. Good morning, Jonathan, and welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Pamela. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Well, I just love your art. It's the kind of art that when you're walking by, and you've been in our Main and Maui County Festival for a number of years, and when you walk by your booth, it's the kind of thing that just immediately captures your attention. So tell us, what people say about your art and what makes your art so unique.
Oh, thank you. What people say about my art, they say a lot of different things about it, but one thing that's kind of fun is that I get, return customers and clients year after year that, for some reason my art speaks to them from an emotional level, which is kind of funny because it's such a playful, almost kid-like way that it's illustrative, it's fun, it's colorful, but a lot of times each of the characters in each of the pieces, these big-eyed girls with their animals, their island animals, so whether it be a humpback whale or a honu or something, or a monk seal, they for some reason it speaks to them from an emotional level, and they end up coming in, purchasing piece after piece, year after year, because it strikes an emotion in them, which I love that. It was never really intended to be that initially, but over the years, that's why a lot of them are named. A lot of the girls are named certain names from the islands, usually Hawaiian names that will help to bring across some sort of an emotion or a feeling or something about the Aina or whatever it might be. And so, I guess that's what I love most, is getting people's reaction to the art. Yeah.
It's really amazing, and to hear how you're creating these emotional connections is fascinating. So this is a different art form, but I love them. I mean, like you said, you have to see them, and we're going to tell you how you can see them in a little bit. But the characters have big, bright eyes, and they really draw you in. It's very colorful, as Jonathan said. So how did you get inspired to do this type of art?
Well, I grew up until I was 18 in Colorado, into the snowboard and surf, or into the snowboard and skate scene, and kind of the outdoor culture there. And when I moved here when I was a teenager, got into surfing and the island, or the water and the island life, and learning about the culture. And so I think that all kind of culminated together, and I was always into this funky kind of street art, even when I was a young kid. And I did various businesses when I was here, and everywhere from working in the hotels to actually having my own landscaping company, doing that type of work. But I think one day I just kind of sat down after a long day of landscaping and kind of was getting a little burnt out after having that business for a number of years, and just sat down and started painting. And it had been a while, but so it kind of, from even this style started coming out even from when I was a kid. It still was with me, and so I started painting again. And the first was this girl holding a Jackson chameleon. Her hair was blowing out to the side, and she had these big, accentuated eyes. I always loved Margaret Keane's work from the 60s.
Yeah.
And merging that with the surf art and the street art culture and this pop surrealism that I've always liked. And so this is kind of the culmination of how that came to be. It was kind of almost by accident a little bit. And but everyone that saw this piece just loved it and wanted me to do more. And I started doing some shirts and some hats. And my wife and I started playing with the idea of, maybe we can sell our work. She's also an artist, jewelry and ceramics. So we kind of started doing a few shows, and people just kind of fell in love with the work itself. And since then, we've had a shop in Paia, and then we did the local shows, including the Made in Maui County Festival for years. And so now we're kind of restructuring things and reorganizing things for the future. We don't have the shop in Paia anymore, but we will be opening up our mobile boutique again in 2022.
Oh.
So, which is it's like a giant food truck, but it's all based on art and jewelry, and it's kind of like a mobile gallery on wheels, I guess. Yeah.
Love that. And where can people find you when you do that?
So we'll be doing shows that we'll probably do some of the local swap meet. We'll do, if they open up for Fourth Fridays, of course, any kind of show that the chamber puts on, we'll try to be part of that. But yeah, so we might even do some private shows for weddings and things like that. So we're kind of playing with different ideas at the moment.
That is really exciting to hear. Because I love these new mobile pop-ups for business now. I mean, more and more people are taking these food truck concepts and going, wait, we can do this. And it's such a fun idea. And, of course, it allows you to go from space to space and participate in swap meet and things and be ready. You don't have to pack up every weekend. You can just put it in the truck and be ready the next weekend. How awesome.
And we've always had a good local following as well as visitors, and we've kind of missed that over the last couple of years with COVID and things. So it'd be nice to. We are online, of course. And
I was going to say, tell us about that. We've got about 40 seconds to wrap up, but tell us about where we can find you on your website and social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So social media, both Facebook and Instagram, are Jonerz Art. So you pronounce that Jonerz. A lot of people pronounce it all kinds of different ways, but it's my name, Jonathan, basically with an Ers, or Jonerz. Yeah, so Jonerz Art on both Instagram and Facebook, at Jonerz Art. And then my website is jonerz.com, JONERZ.com.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing with us this morning. I can't wait to see your new mobile gallery. And again,
thank you so much.
It's his amazing artwork and his wife's beautiful jewelry and exciting things. So we look forward to seeing that soon. And I just really want to wish you and your wife a wonderful holiday season.
Oh, thank you so much, Pamela. Hopefully your rest of your year is.
Thank you so much. We're going to have a wonderful time this season, and I'm looking forward to the new year. For all who have just been tuning in, this is Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce and sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Tumpop, the president of the Chamber, wishing you a joyous continued holiday season and blessings for the new year in 2022. We hope you also have a beautiful day and look forward to connecting with you again next year.